Think positive, repeat affirmations like I am the greatest and nothing can stop me, and social anxiety will just disappear, right? If you've tried using affirmations to ease your anxiety and felt nothing, or perhaps even worse, then don't worry because you're not alone. In this video, I'll explain why certain affirmations can actually backfire for those of us with social anxiety and how they can actually deepen that feeling of self-doubt. Stick around to find out what actually works instead to quieten the inner critic and to boost our confidence instead of piling on the pressure. Hey, I'm Neil and I struggle with social anxiety for more than 2 decades. On this channel, every week, I'll be bringing you the best methods and strategies that I've used to feel more confident. Self-esteem is the term for how we perceive and value ourselves, and if we feel judged by others, then it can be a sign that we have low self-esteem. Studies have shown that there's a strong link between our levels of self-esteem and our levels of social anxiety, and if we have low self-esteem, then this can make us a lot more sensitive to getting rejected. It can make it more difficult for us to adapt to social settings, and this can ultimately increase our overall levels of social anxiety. If we have low self-esteem, then we might believe that we don't have a lot to offer, and then this can lead us to develop this negative internal dialogue where we end up constantly criticizing ourselves and beating ourselves up for every little mistake we make in social interactions. One way that we can try to increase our self-esteem is through the use of affirmations. The idea behind this is that if you say something to yourself and repeat it to yourself often enough, then you'll start to actually believe it and then become it. Recent studies have actually shown that it may not really be that simple after all, and there was a study run that asked the question of are positive self-statements actually beneficial? In this particular study, they chose people based on their scores from the Rosenberg self-esteem scale. They chose people in the lowest third with the lowest self-esteem scores, and then people in the highest third with the highest self-esteem scores, and then they assigned them to one of 2 conditions. The conditions were that they either repeated the positive statement, I am a lovable person, for 4 minutes, or they just wrote down their thoughts and feelings for 4 minutes. And the results actually showed that the people with the lowest self-esteem actually felt worse after repeating the positive affirmation. The reason that has been suggested for this is that this actually creates some sort of conflict with our internal dialogue. So if we repeat a positive statement to ourselves, if we tell ourselves that we are a lovable person, but we actually have some core beliefs that don't fit this and they contradict what we're trying to tell ourselves, then we'll just have this inner voice that will automatically appear in our heads that will try and come up with lots of different reasons as to why what we're saying to ourselves, that we're a lovable person, isn't exactly true, and then this will kind of create some sort of internal conflict that makes us feel even more down and depressed. We end up just locked in this internal battle of trying to convince ourselves of something that we're struggling to believe is actually true, and it just creates the opposite effect of what we actually want to happen. If we keep trying to tell ourselves that we are the greatest, but a voice keeps on coming back at us saying that we're not, then this just ends up feeling like a lie, and it makes us feel even more down. There have actually been numerous studies done in psychology on this particular topic, and it seems that all of them produce very similar results. So unfortunately, it seems as though these positive statements actually create the opposite effects for the people that could really do with them the most. It actually turns out that people with higher self-esteem actually did feel better after repeating these affirmations to themselves, but the effects didn't last very long. So it seems as though using these sorts of affirmations may work well in some cases to psych ourselves up in the short term, but ultimately they'll do little in the long term to actually change our underlying thoughts and feelings. World-renowned psychologist Dr. Albert Ellis said that we should give up on all our ideas about self-esteem and stick to only those of unconditional acceptance, and choose to accept ourselves, our existence and our humanity, whether or not we perform well, whether or not we're loved by significant others, and whether or not we're suffering from work, school, sports or other handicaps. People from the studies that I mentioned previously actually found that their mood improved and they did a lot better when they were told that it's actually okay to experience negative thoughts, and this is probably because they were no longer trying to fight against something and to convince themselves of something that they didn't actually believe to be true. This means that instead of trying to tell ourselves that we're really strong and capable when we're feeling down, we can instead just see ourselves as a human being and learn to use self-compassion and kindness instead. We can affirm ourselves with values that we truly believe, that we know that we're 100% confident about in our minds. So these could be things like, I am honest and trustworthy, or I am patient and understanding. Just make sure that it's something that we can believe when we say it to ourselves. Some excellent affirmations that I like to use from time to time in my own life come from the Anxiety and Phobia workbook from the Bill of Rights section by Dr. Edmund Bourne, and these are ones that often I see floating around in other places that other people like to use as well, so they're quite common. Here are some examples of some of the main ones that relate to social anxiety. I have the right to say no to requests or demands that I can't meet. I have the right to change my mind. I have the right to make mistakes and do not have to be perfect. I have the right to not be responsible for other people's behaviours, actions, feelings or problems. I have the right to say I don't know. I have the right to not give excuses or reasons for my behaviour. I have the right to feel comfortable around other people and to make friends. You can also adapt this list to create something that resonates with you a lot more personally, but it offers a fairly solid framework for giving you an understanding of your rights around your feelings and your needs. These are basic rights that every human being has, but we may not feel as though we have them, maybe due to some of the experiences that we had while we were growing up. So we now need to take it upon ourselves to remind ourselves that we do have the right to feel this way. Repeating these rights to ourselves on a consistent basis can help us to develop a lot more of an assertive attitude. They're not actually based on anything that's external in the external world, so we can be 100% confident and have full conviction when we're using them. I've even come across people that have said that repeating the statements as they are in a very positive sense can feel a bit overwhelming at the beginning, and they can find it quite difficult to believe it. So they've even actually put a neutral word on the front, like a maybe. So they say, maybe I have the right to, until they learn to believe that before moving on to doing it in a more positive sense. It's better to read these to yourself aloud if you can, or even record yourself saying them and then repeat them to yourself on a daily basis so that it really drives the point home. If you'd like to take big steps towards overcoming social anxiety, I run weekly online groups where you can practice being confident in a safe environment and gradually ease your way out of your comfort zone. I'll put the link down in the description. If you want to watch more, then check out my latest video here. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this content valuable, then please like and hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next one.